basically that's gonna be the Sabbath. So we're gonna shut the, we ain't gonna have nobody there at church that week.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Gotcha.
but we gotta make sure though.
That everybody's coming.
Right, and everybody got somewhere they're going, whether it's Atlanta or Philly. I'm just here, so if you can, throw the bug in my ear, please.
And if not, just let you know.
Yeah, and then we made a lot
Brother
of
Sean hit you back with New York yet?
Not yet, but
No.
I just thought you trying to. Yeah, we are, but we're gonna have to take the house volume down just a little bit, 'cause we don't need it. My brother, you ain't have to worry about it.
How you know? You ain't. Oh, 'cause you just let me go. Huh?
Yeah.
That's that stuff you be drinking, but your body ain't working. Got used to it yet?
Yo, what you say? That's the stuff.
We ain't come here to talk about that.
Your body ain't got used to that for sure. How to use violence.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's it. That do have an effect though. I slept with it for a while. Y'all was right though.
All right, brothers and sisters. Why is there so much volume? Okay, well, all right, brothers and sisters. As always, it's a pleasure to be before you. Today we are presenting you The Lord's Been Kind. And I know that right now it's on the Israel Church of Jesus Philadelphia page. This broadcast is running live from there, and we'll download it and put it actually on the Lord's Been Kind page, but we'll keep it up here, Lord willing. But at any rate, today we're going to look at the origin of the black man. Now, I have two distinguished guests with me here, Brother Stan, one of our teachers here at the Israel Church of Jesus, and Professor Chris. No, I'm just playing. No, but really, though, that's to his credit, though, because that brother's very knowledgeable in the Word. We're blessed to have him as one of our teachers here in Philadelphia as well. And what we're going to look at today, gentlemen, is the origin of the black man. Now, the Bible, one of the great mysteries of the Bible is that it is the historical book of all mankind. And when we look at it, and I want us to turn to Genesis chapter 10 real quick. And we are looking at the origin of the black man, and the reason we titled it this way is because black man is not a race. And it's a title or a tag that's been given to a group of black people. So I want us to make sure that we kind of cover that a little bit. Brother Arthur, I'm sorry. Could you please cut the volume down, but not on the board, but on the other thing where the 4 stacks is? Just cut all the volumes down. Not on the board at all, just where those 4 stacks are, and they got little stickers on them and stuff. I'm sorry. So again, the Bible is a history book that covers the history of everybody. And what I mean by that is, if you believe the Bible, which many of us that's going to be watching, I hope all of us that's going to be watching, do believe in the Bible as the authoritative book that God, inspired by man. Now, man wrote the Bible. Man wrote everything that's on this planet. But, and so you got to believe something somewhere. If you believe the Bible, then God inspired this Bible basically from the beginning of days. And Moses was given the first 5 books. And that's where you get your story of Adam and Eve. That's where you get your story of Noah and the ark. And that's where you get your story of Moses, Abraham. All that came from Moses, okay? Now, the reason that we are going to go to Genesis chapter, actually 9, is because I want to, now we could start at Adam and Eve. We're talking about the origin of somebody. And the origin of all mankind really starts with Adam and Eve. But there was a great flood that took place according to the Bible. And with this flood, we wiped out everybody but 8 people. These 8 people were Noah, his wife. And then there are 3 characters that are not really well represented in our history books: Shem, Japheth, and Ham. And they had wives. These 3 men are the sons of Noah, and from these 3 men come all mankind. So at any rate, we're going to start it at Genesis chapter 9, and we'll pick it up at verse 18. And no, we'll pick it up at, we'll pick it up at verse 18. And when you get there, We're going to just read 18 and 19 here. When you get there, go ahead and read.
And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan.
Now, the Bible does this a lot. So what the Bible just did was it told us that Ham, he's the father of the Canaanites. So have you ever heard about a story like David and Goliath? You know, he was a Philistine. They were Canaanites. Okay? So his forefather would have come from Ham. Then you might look at when Samson was going through the land. And he was dealing with the Philistines too, wasn't he? Yeah, well, they all Hamites, okay? So it says, and the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. Go ahead, verse 19.
These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread.
Right, so with these three men, and I want you to remember and understand that this story is told to Moses. So really, when the Lord has said, these are the three sons of Noah, and them was the whole earth overspread, like he's saying, look out, everybody on the earth come from these three people. Not, a lot of times people read the Bible and they think here, or they think most of it is written in real time. Like somebody went and took a journal or a diary or something and went home that night and wrote, and then we compiled it. And like, no, it wasn't written like that. Some of the Bible was written because God said right. You know what I mean? He told Daniel right, Ezekiel right, even with John in the book of Revelations right. And then some of these things, like the book of Chronicles, was like archived information because you're gonna keep a log of kings. You know what I mean? Like how, you know, after a while, you know, we might remember the first 2 or 3 kings, but then again, we need to make sure we jot this down, because if we don't, I mean, word of mouth is gonna only be so long and so far. So this isn't written in a real-time perspective. It's written afterward, and the Lord is telling telling Moses, these 3 sons of Noah, the whole earth was overspread. Now, as we go over to the next chapter, and I'm really gonna do chapter 10 a little bit, chapter 11 a little bit, just to kind of start us off here, and then I'm gonna pass the ball. So when we go to Genesis chapter 10, it says, we'll pick it up at verse 1. Anybody?
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah.
So now what Genesis is doing is about to explain to you who are the sons of Noah and who are they? Okay, now we're in the days of Moses right now. So when you name these names, Moses is familiar with each nationality. So if you really want to find out, well, who is who, that's where you're really going to go, that time era in history, to get a comprehension of who these people are. Right. So you can't say, so go ahead and start reading verse 2.
The sons of Japheth.
So you can't say right now, who is Japheth? Japheth been dead. You know what I'm saying? Who's the Japhethites? You know what I mean? Right. Like it doesn't. What you would have to do is, now who are the sons of Japheth?
Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus.
So what you got to do is you got to take those names, the sons that he's given, and you got to go trace this back to the time period of Moses. Now, the historians will tell you Moses was around, 14, anywhere between 14 and 1500 BC, around that time era. I'm not giving you a precise number, but what I'm saying is, the history books give you a time of the pharaohs and of Moses. They give you a time of when they say the Exodus took place. So that's where you want to begin your search. Because see, what we do here is we lay a foundation for you to do your homework. Like we do our homework, but we also teach and preach that you can't let man deceive you. So when you hear what we tell you, because we're going to tell you some stuff today, and we ain't got the time, or we're not going to put it out there to go grab every single source and say, okay, so this what this word mean, and this what this word mean. But we're going to put some words out there. For example, I'm going to just give you one off the rip. When we talk about Ham, because we're going to discuss him at some point, and we talk about Mizraim, well, that's Egypt. And the original Egyptians, they're black. Now, that's common knowledge to scholarly people. But if you're not really somebody that, did a whole lot of homework, now I'm telling you how to do the homework. You need to go and find out who Mizraim is around the days of Moses. Okay? And that's how you're going to really be able to check us.
Right.
To make sure that what you're getting from us is authentic. So at any rate, jump down to verse 5.
By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families in their nation.
Okay, so now what's happening is the Lord is telling Moses how everybody got where they are.
Right.
And he says here that the Japheth or Japhetic people, if we want to play with the word like that, by these were the isles of the Gentiles. So now we see they're not called Japhetic people.
Right.
They're called Gentiles. Brothers and sisters, this is where the Gentile is originated from.
That's right.
Okay? So, and obviously, Moses and them knew who and what a Gentile was,
Right.
for them to use that terminology here.
Indeed.
Okay. So he said, by these were the isle of the Gentiles, divided in their land, everyone after his tongue, after their family, and their nation. Now, we're going to jump over to chapter 11, but we're going to come back here, because what I want to do is I want to show you precisely when, because it said that they were divided, everyone after his tongue, after their family and their nation. So we're going to jump over to chapter 11, and we're going to pick it up at the first verse. Genesis 11:1. And when you get there, go ahead.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly.
Keep
And they
reading.
had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar.
Go ahead.
And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth.
All right, so at one point, everybody had the same tongue, you have to understand, at one point, it was 8 people on the earth. So obviously, they all had the same tongue. I mean, you ain't finna be in my house if I can't understand you and you can't understand me.
Indeed.
That just don't make sense.
Right.
So they all, but at some point we get, how many languages we got now? Lord knows how many.
Right.
Right, and truly, Lord knows how many.
Right.
That's a very true statement in itself, but I don't.
Right.
And I'm sure some scholarly linguistic person can tell me, oh, it's 600 different tongues and 15,000 dialects. The point that we getting here is, at one point, everybody was one, and this is pre-Tower of Babel day.
Yes.
Okay? So any history prior to the Tower of Babel, everybody was one. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do.
So what's going to happen?
Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language.
So right here, the Lord is looking at the sons of men, and he's saying, look, y'all on something else. Y'all too quick for me right now. I don't like where you going with this.
Right.
Ain't no telling what type of technology we was going to come up with if we would have proceeded in the process of building this tower. Like imagine if the Empire State Building was built, 5,000 years ago.
Right.
I mean, because since then, now they getting higher and higher even now. And when we talking about getting higher and higher, you just got to understand that you're advancing yourself. You're really playing God at some point. Yeah. Like when you look at man, because it ain't just building that we deal with. Everything moves. You know what I'm saying? Like in the 20th century, we done built cars, planes, microwaves, computers. But it was like before then, well, all we had was a train. You follow what I'm saying? And then as soon as we start moving, now we start moving. Right. And we start moving. So imagine if we would have been doing this 4,000 years ago. Now they trying to reach Mars and other planets. Just think about what we would have tried to been doing then. Like the Lord wasn't going to have that. Right. So he said, I'm about to confuse your languages because nothing you imagine to do will be done. Will I be able to stop you from doing? All right. Because that's the beauty of what man is. I was bid at this question during the week. Why does man have a free choice? And what I had to explain, and not, so we, don't give me the we gonna be, so we won't be robots answer. And I felt them. I said, but you got to understand what God is doing with us. He's procreating himself. And the thing is, he could say like the angels, all right, I'm going to make you, you're going to do this. But now you got Satan, meaning like that plan didn't work. Right. So, or I shouldn't say it didn't work. It served this purpose, but we have a greater purpose because at some point we'll outrank the angels. We'll be sons of God. Yes, sir. Okay. So God is making himself. So with that being said, he's given us a mind that's going to keep moving. Indeed. We're not going to be stuck at one spot. Like, okay, we never going to be satisfied with what we got. We were just talking earlier about my man living to be 101, and they say he had seven heart transplants. Exactly. Like, I mean, who gets to do that? And look, they didn't do that 2,000 years ago. Right. Like, I have a son that was born with a cleft palate and some other things. And I asked my mother and my wife and some other people, what did they think would have happened to my son if he would have been born, you know, just 100 years ago, 200 years ago? And they was like, he probably would have been dead. So look at the advancement of what technology has done. In the reality of things, we actually get people to live longer because we are the sons of God. And our dogs ain't progressed. You know, the monkey ain't figured out how to do nothing on his own yet. Right. Only us. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, back to the Bible, verse 7, he said, let us go down there, confound their language that we may not understand, so that they may, referring to us, may not understand one another's speech. Go ahead.
Verse 8. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth. And they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. Right, so now we see what happened there. He said that the Lord confounded the languages there of everybody apart. Everybody went their way. So going back to chapter 10, we're going to go back to chapter 10, and let's pick it up at verse... Okay, because we lost the picture, but I'm going to fix that as soon as we're done with this. So let's go back to verse 6. Actually, I can fix the picture since they can't see us, and you can keep reading, and y'all should be able to hear me, but I'm going to go ahead and fix this picture because we lost the camera here. Okay. All right. Yeah, but go ahead and pick it up at verse 6.
I got it. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush.
Keep going.
Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Septica, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel.
So now we seeing here, and we had origins. That's what we discussing now. We're discussing the origin of the black man. I know this. But in order for us to comprehend the origin of the black man, we gotta get the origin of mankind. We gotta learn about this a little bit, okay? So he's saying here that make sure we got that picture back. I think I did it. So he said here, the first kingdom we see is Babel or Babel. And if for those historians out there, we're under the sons of Ham right now. Cush, Mizraim, Phut, Canaan. Now, I'm just going to tell you, like I said, you can do your own homework. These brothers may even provide some information. But Cush and like Mizraim, that's Egypt. That's the origin of the Egyptians. Right. The original Egyptians do not look like Cleopatra from off of the television show. Right. You know what I'm saying? They aren't white. And anybody who has done any real type of homework can tell you that. You know, this is not me just making this up, okay? So these Hamites here, they're black.
That's right.
They are a black race of people. Now, the Japhetic people, they were a white race of people. Mm-hmm. Now, I want you to understand something when we start talking black and white. So when you look at Japheth and you look at white, first of all, I ain't never met a white person yet, personally. White, like white, like the pages of my book. Right. Okay, so we saying white for identification purposes because that's what we've labeled them. But when you look at the Gentile, the white man, he has a wide variety of color. From an olive green typish color. If you look down in the Mediterranean, that might be the color that you call your people of Greece. You know, if you look at your Italians, They oftentimes in your Spanish, oftentimes have a darker color with a darker set of hair, but they're still of a paleness or less pigmentation, as the word, and less melanin. These are some of the terms that our scientists have come up with.
Right.
But I like to just try to keep it plain. They are lighter color, but then as you continue to go across the landscape of Asia, Europe to Asia, and you start getting over to that side, you actually got your Asian, they're Gentile, and they look more yellowish.
Right.
Then when you go, and their hair is a kind of different texture than the people on the other side. So my point that I'm making is, not all white people are Italians,
that's right,
but all Italians are white. Mm-hmm. White, you know, your French might look a different way than somebody that's from China,
right,
and he might look more different from a Mongolian, who might look close to a Russian, but a little different. And I think you might be getting the picture of what we're saying. That just because you white don't mean you just Greek. And I'm saying that because I want us to understand that when we begin to talk about Ham. So Ham, he's Ethiopians are Hamites. Now I don't know if you brothers have, but I lived around them when I lived in Georgia, Ethiopians. And most of your Ethiopians, if you talk about complexion, they are actually a lighter complexion of brown. It's hard to say, looking at us, and we're a good example too, because we different complexions, but we'll get there later. But looking at us, it's hard to place the Ethiopian, but I would say you could probably see him right in the middle of YouTube. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of his complexion. And I mean, you could Google it. You're on a computer. You can Google it, see for yourself. But then we also know, when you look at Africa, which is who the world would tell you is Ham, mm-hmm, they got some pitch black people over there too.
Right. Now,
let's take, we got Ethiopia, let's take, and I could be wrong, let's take the Nigerian. Let's say I'm thinking of Christian Okoye. You know, I don't know if y'all know who he was. He was a football player, but he was black though. So you got the Ethiopian, who is a lighter complexion of brown, and then you got Christian Okoye, who about as black as our shirts up here. But they're all Ham, and it's a range for Ham, okay?
Wow.
So you got a range for Japheth, and you got a range for Ham, okay? Now, one thing I've learned is Ham and Japheth, as far as I know right now, because my jury's still out on who them Indians is. Meaning there's so many Indians over there. I'm talking about not the Native American Indians. I'm talking about Indians of India.
Right.
It's so many of them over there that I often wonder if everybody ain't just sitting there. Japheth, Ham, and Shem. And had they not, you know, they might have all crossbred, whatever. But that's a whole nother, like, I kind of leave India out, because and when you look at the people over there, I mean, you got some people black as midnight with hair straight as so I don't know what the heck happened over there. I am not the professor of knowing everything, all right? But what we still getting at, based off the Bible, the first kingdom we see was the kingdom of Babel in the land of Shinar, which is actually Babylon. And when you jump down to verse 20.
These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations.
Okay, so we have the Hamites here. That's what we call them. Mm-hmm. And again, when the first thing that comes to mind when we discuss Hamites is Africans.
Right.
Okay, but Africa is a continent. Mm-hmm. So I mean, when you say that, we Americans, but what does that mean? So you know, it's just, we say Africans because stereotypically we identify with a certain group of people, okay? So that's why we saying that. But really, the Hamites are your blacker, or you are a black race of people. That's what the Hamites are, a black race of people. Period, point blank. Right. Hamites are not white. Mm-hmm. All right. Gentiles are not black. Okay. Now we're gonna look at the next one, Shem. So let's pick it up at verse 21.
Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder. Even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram.
Now go to verse 25.
And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided. And his brother's name was Joktan.
Now, when they say the earth was divided in his day, it don't mean that the earth, you know, they talk about the world, and I don't argue this with geologists, but they say at one point the earth was compact together, right, and then they spread it out. That's not what we're talking about when they say here. He's talking to Moses, and he had just told Moses, you know, about Shinar and Achim, and he's saying everybody got divided according to their tongue. Right. That's the divide we're talking about. Meaning in his day, Peleg's day, is when the Tower of Babel happened. Okay? Now we can skip down to verse 32, or 31, I'm sorry.
These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
Okay, so Genesis chapter 10, and if you are somebody that's internet savvy, if you actually just Google Genesis 10, they're going to give you what's called a table of nations. So this is common knowledge. But the problem is when we start discussing Shem, they begin to say that the Asian is Shem. That's what they are trying to play out there. So, and unfortunately, I was rushing to leave my house and I didn't pull out this Bible dictionary that gives you a definition of Ham. But I will tell it to you. It says, oh, you got it? Well, read that for us real quick if you got it, the definition of Ham.
This is the Zondervan Bible Dictionary.
That's exactly what we're looking for.
And Ham, page 330, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes.
I love that. So in that Bible dictionary, which is a very respected biblical source, Zondervan, it's saying that Ham is the progenitor of the black races, but not the Negro. Now, we're the Negro.
That's right.
I mean, I'm sure we're probably going to touch on how that came about anyway. Right. But it ain't no question who the Negro is, but we're not Ham, and we're not Japheth.
That's right.
It's because we're Shemitic. Now,
right. Can I
go ahead,
a
absolutely.
couple of these nations?
Go ahead, please do.
It says, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, we talked about, the Libyans, and the Canaanites.
Right.
All right,
those were the Hamite nations.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, read that again. So these are black people that this book is, because it said Ham is the progenitor or the start of the black nation, and he gonna name some nations, but he said not the Negro. Right. So either we started out of thin air, or we must have come from somewhere else. Because we didn't come from Japheth. When you go do your homework on them, and there's no argument who Japheth is, they're gonna tell you the Caucasians. That's what they're going to say. And Ham, according to the historians and the archaeologists, that's where this information comes from. They saying, read that again. All of what you read about Ham, please.
Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
Very good. So again, Ham is black, the Japheth, or the Gentiles, white, and Shem is what I like to say right there in the middle. And Shem can be as black as one of my brother-in-law, his name Black. Right, because we come black. And then look at this brother here. I mean, and I'm not picking on him, but he the lightest one on the panel. But that's how the Negro comes. But now Shem, his variety even goes even lighter than this brother, because we look at the Arab. See, the Arab hadn't been accounted for in Japheth and Ham, because he's Shemitic as well. These are the sons of Abraham, as are the black men. That's right. Sons of Abraham. Abraham came from Shem. And the 3 major races that come from Abraham is the Esau, and I'm not going to really say no more than just that, though. Then Ishmael and the sons of Jacob. These are your main 3 races that come from Abraham. He's a father of many nations. And when you look at those 3 people, we see the sons of Jacob, his color has a very wide variety. We come dark and we come super light, but we don't get white though. But then at the same time, when you look at your Ishmaelite, they're the Arab. Them the people that's walking around with the bomb strap and the crazy thing on their hat and they blowing up buildings. No, I'm just playing. That's the stereotype. But it's a way for you to identify with who they are also, because you can identify with the stereotype. Well, they get dark too. Not quite as dark as us, but they get a whole lot lighter than us. Right. But they're not white.
Gotcha.
Okay? And that's the sons of Noah, and that's where everybody came from. So with that being said, I'm not going to take up all the time. We have plenty more information. We got books all on the floor up here. We got, we got stuff we can work with, but we're going to try to get you to the origin and to get you to understand better the origin of the black man. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the ball off to either one of y'all brothers ready to get going. Could you just give us some biblical information, whatever information you got on, it's really an easy topic, but then again, when you think about it, it's like, I mean, proving Israel is black, that's one way of looking at it. But what is the origin of the black man?
Gotcha. So, excellent introduction.
Man, praise the Lord.
Brother Jediah. And, like we just started off reading in Genesis 10, we read about the 3 sons of Noah. We got a little information out of a Bible dictionary about one of them. But we also talked about Shem in here. And just to show how in modern terms, you can see that people understand that everybody came out of one of these sons. You can also look at the term Semitic, that they use a lot of time to refer to the people living in Israel. They say, when somebody does something against them, they're being anti-Semitic. But if you look up the word, it actually is saying, that they hate the children of Shem, in other words, the descendants of Shem. So we see that understanding is still around in the language today. That's a common term. Anytime somebody doing something against them. But Brother Jediah also mentioned that the original people of the land of Egypt were a dark-skinned people. And, it's not uncommon after so much time passing for one people to be replaced with another. So I just want to show an example of that in the Bible over in Deuteronomy chapter 2. And again, this is back in Moses' time. He's writing about right here in Deuteronomy 2, the traveling, the sojourning of the children of Israel. And let's take a look at something that he says, starting around verse 9, Deuteronomy 2 and 9.
And the Lord said unto me, distress not the Moabites, neither contend with them in the battle. For I would not give thee of their land for a possession, because I have given Ar unto the children of Lot for a possession.
All right, so Ar was the name of this land where the Moabites, another relative of the Israelites, were dwelling at. And he said, don't mess with them. I've given that to Lot's children. So, you're not going to get none of their land. Go ahead. But who used to live there?
The Emmons dwelt therein in times past, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims.
So we see over time, other people moved in. And, this is also kind of what even happened in Egypt, because the original people, we read about one of the sons of Ham, Cush, in Genesis 10. Mizraim, that was Egypt, but then they actually were replaced over time as, other people dwelt in those lands. But go ahead, let's keep reading down.
What verse was that?
You keep reading. I got to do some,
all right, brother.
Somebody saying we can't hear you, Chris, but you good. I'm going to cut you off.
Okay.
We definitely live, people, and it's just us 3 in the building today. No other technicians. Y'all rock and roll, brothers. I got you.
And verse
11. Okay. Which also were accounted giants, as the Anakims, but the Moabites called them Emims. The Horims also dwelt in Seir before time, but the children of Esau succeeded them, when they had destroyed them from before them.
All right, so we see, go ahead.
And dwelt in their stead.
All right, so we see that even Israel ended up replacing, it said the Horims dwelt in Seir. So Seir was, another name for the descendants of Israel's brother Esau. They call it Mount Seir. And some people called the Horims used to dwell there. But it said the children of Esau succeeded them, so they dwelt there after them. And it said when they had destroyed them from before them and dwelt in their stead, as what?
As Israel did unto the land of his possession, which the Lord gave unto them.
All right, so we see this is not an uncommon thing, because you might look at the people over in Egypt today and say, well, they don't really look like the Negroes, the people that they call African Americans over here. Mm-hmm. But then if you look in history, you'll see, well, some other people moved in, and the people that used to be the Egyptians during Moses' time are no longer there. But did you have anything to add to that, brother?
Well, I mean, that was pretty good right there. And Jediah touched on most of what was going on in Genesis, but we should just touch a little bit on Jacob, because we mentioned in that Bible dictionary that the Negroes are not Ham, and we know Ham is a black people. Uh-huh. And we have to understand who are the Negroes as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So let me see. Let's because we already touched on Genesis 10 and 11. Let's go back to 25 and let's look at the son of Abraham.
All right.
Let's just go there real fast. What'd I say? Genesis 25?
Yeah.
And let's just look at the Negro a little bit. And and we call Negroes because that's a proverb among God's people. You're going to be called this people is going to be called everything else but Israel. Okay. So let's go look at Jacob real fast. Let's go to Genesis 25 and let's pick it up at 19.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Mm-hmm. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister to Laban, the Syrian.
Go ahead.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. But Rebekah his wife conceived.
Mm-hmm. So she's conceiving children in her stomach. Go ahead.
And the children struggled together within her.
Go ahead.
And she said, if it be so, why am I thus?
Yes.
And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
So we read right here that Rebekah has twins in her womb. Okay, but these 2 twins are 2 different nations coming out of the same womb, right? So go ahead, brother, read.
And 2 manner of people.
These are not identical twins. Go ahead.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
So it's not impossible for God to bring out different nations from the same womb, because we're reading that right here. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, brother.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger.
Go ahead, brother, read.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment.
Mm-hmm. And what's his name?
And they called his name Esau.
And they called his name Esau. So see, this is the elder brother right here. And this is, he's Shem as well. He comes from Shem because he's obviously coming out of the loins of Jacob. I mean, not Jacob, Isaac. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, brother.
And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob.
And here go the other brother. Here's Jacob. And this is the one that is known as the Negro, his sons. Go ahead, brother, read.
And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Mm-hmm. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter.
So that's good right there. So I just wanted to show you that Jacob came from the loins of Isaac, and that's Isaac came from the loins of Abraham, the loins, excuse me. So, but let's go look a little further. Let's go to Genesis 49 real fast, and let's look at the sons that Jacob had. Genesis 49, and just pick it up at verse 1.
And Jacob called unto his son and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Okay, so Jacob is calling his sons. He has 12 sons here. He's going
and if I may interject, for some of us may not know, Jacob and Israel is the same person.
Right.
So when you start talking to, Jacob and his 12 sons, it's Israel. And that's where we get, because Jacob wrestled with an angel and was blessed with a new name. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. But I'm sorry, verse 2, right?
That's very good, brother. Thank you.
Verse 2, gather yourselves together and hear ye sons of Jacob and hearken unto Israel your father.
Skip down to verse 28.
All these are the 12 tribes of Israel.
See, so these sons that he called are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is a part of that Negro that's not Ham. Okay? So, we can look at the color of these people as well. You have anything to add on that?
Nah.
No?
Well, I would say, since we right here in Genesis,
Okay.
let's turn over to chapter 50.
50.
Yeah, and this is touching the color, because a lot of people. Oh, go ahead then.
No, you got it.
Oh, because a lot of people have a hard problem with people of the Bible being black or something.
Right.
And they try to make it seem like, oh, so y'all being racist or something. Look, facts is facts, man.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not. I mean, if Jesus was white and all these people in the Bible was white, I still be trying to tell you to keep the commandments because the book is good. Right. But the fact still remain that we here will tell you that the people of the Bible are the people that's here in America that came as slaves. And we're going to show you that, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, sir.
And, the people that the people like Lennox Lewis, it's black people in Europe, you know what I'm saying? Like, and in South America. And it's black people even in Africa, brothers and sisters, that are not Hamites, that are Israelites. Because that's where we started at anyway, over there in Africa. That's how we got over here. Right. But one of the ways is that when we use the Bible that we show you this is it's not argued so much if Egypt is black.
Right.
Most people, once they get past the initial TV shot, they like, oh yeah, you're right. Yes, you know what I'm saying? The Egyptians, the original Egyptians are black. Right. So now looking at this story here, Genesis chapter 50, and let's pick it up at verse 1. Yep. And we're going to read a story of what happened when Jacob or Israel, when he actually died. So when you get there, go ahead, Genesis 50 and 1.
And Joseph fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. And the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him. For so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days.
So for 70 days, now Joseph is a prince in Egypt. Right. He's a king in Egypt. I mean, short of Pharaoh, Joseph is the man.
Yes, sir.
And they are doing Egyptian customs right now. All of them doing Egyptian customs, because just like we in America right now, we do American customs. When somebody die, we're going to take them to the funeral home. They're going to cut them open, take out all their body parts, stuff them with toilet paper. No, I don't know what they say. They're going to stuff them with embalming fluid or whatever, and we're going to put them in the casket, and then we're going to put them 6 feet in the dirt at the graveyard, which we got plenty of them around here. That is an American custom. Okay, so they're about to do Egyptian customs. So it says, and 40 days were fulfilled for him, for as are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. So obviously they was embalming back then.
That's right.
And the Egyptians mourned for him 60. A score is 20, so 3 of them is 60 in 10 days. Go ahead.
And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, if now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, lo, I die, and my grave which I have dig for me in the land of Canaan. Okay,
so now remember we was back in Genesis 10. You had Canaan was a son, and Mizraim or Egypt, that's a son, okay? So now they in Egypt's land, which is actually on what's presently known today as the African continent.
Right.
And he's saying, I want to go back to the Middle East, which is where the land of Canaan was, okay? So this is what Israel told his family to do because his daddies was buried there. He want to be buried there. Right. All right, go ahead.
There shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, go up and bury thy father, according as he made thee swear.
Go ahead.
And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, and the elders of the house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt.
All right, so you got the sons of Jacob, and you also got the Egyptians.
Yes, sir.
And the Egyptians by far outnumber the sons of Jacob right here, okay? But all in all, they're all there together.
All together.
Okay, go ahead.
And all the house of Joseph and his brethren and his father's house, only their little ones, and their flocks and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots of horsemen, and it was a very great company.
So they was deep up in there. Go ahead.
And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan. And there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days.
Man, do you see how amazing this is? So they had already wept for 70 days.
Right.
Nah, he like, we got to do a whole another 7 when we get him where he at. It's just, I mean, just the whole process of what's going on is really amazing. And then we talking about real life people, but we talking like 3,500 years ago.
Right.
That's what's so amazing about this. This is what was going on 3,500 years ago. But go ahead, keep reading.
Yes. Verse 11. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning of the floor of Atad.
So now you got the people of that land that was there. They saw all these people over here mourning. Okay, now pay attention. Go ahead.
They said, this is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. Wherefore the name of it is called Abel Mizrael.
Man, he said to the Egyptians. But the thing about it is, it wasn't just Egyptians there.
That's right.
It was Egyptians and Israelites.
Right.
And with these people being of that area, they know the difference if there was a difference. And then it goes back to show, too, you know, if you go to the story of Jesus.
That's what I was going to do.
Well, we'll forget that one then. If you go to Moses, he's going to go there, too. Well, my goodness. But no, okay, so if we're going to go back to Jesus. It's easier, but I'm going to give you the quick version anyway. So when Jesus was a baby, Herod heard about him being born, he wanted to kill him. When Jesus and his mom and daddy wanted to hide, they went and hid in Egypt.
That's right.
Now, look, I'm not stupid. If I want to go hide, and I live in the Philadelphia area, I'm not going to go hide, over there by where the Mormons are or whatever we got out here, because I'm not going to be very, what's the word, inconspicuous. Yeah, I ain't going to be too incognito. I mean, it's going to be like, yeah, the black guy over there that just came in town the other day. Yeah. But now if I go to Philly, it's a whole bunch of us people over there. And guess what? We got Hamites in Philly. Right. We got we got Jamaicans in Philly. You know, I can hide good over there because all us look alike. So when you start talking about what Jesus did, him being a person of whatever he was, if he's going to hide from Herod, who know what's going on, he ain't finna go hide around some people that don't look like him.
True.
So what we have to understand is the Egyptians and the Israelites looked alike.
That's right.
That's all we getting at with that. But and that's what we see here. They went out and the people of that land said it's a grievous day to the Egyptians. Why? Because they all looked alike. But back to the brothers to the panel.
Yeah. Well, since we on the Egyptians, if you don't mind, brother.
Nah, you got it, bro.
Let's go to Exodus real fast and talk about this Israelite, Moses. Exodus chapter 1. We ain't going to do too much reading. I don't want to suck up all the time. But let's go to chapter 1 and read verse 7. Exodus chapter 1 and verse 7.
I got you. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them.
So at this time, Israel is in the land of Egypt. And this is who we're talking about, Israel right here, right? So skip down, brother, to verse 11.
Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Sound like slavery, don't it?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
They was grieved because of the children of Israel. Give me 15, brother. So what's going on? These children of Israel starting to become a problem. Read 15, brother.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools,
do what? What he want them to do?
If it be a son,
if it be a son, what about him?
Then ye shall kill him.
They want him to kill these Israelite sons, these Hebrew sons, right? Read.
But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
So, I mean, you still can see the same thing going on today. Nothing new under the sun. Skip down to verse 21, brother.
And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river.
Now, every son of these Hebrews that are born, he said, cast them into what?
The river.
Into the river. And what?
And every daughter ye shall save alive.
Okay, so we read this to prove that this son we about to read about is a Hebrew, an Israelite. Go ahead into chapter 2 and verse 1, brother.
And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived, and bare a son. And when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months.
Yes.
And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes.
So she's hiding this child, obviously, because they're trying to kill these babies, the baby sons. Read.
And dubbed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off to wit what would be done to him.
Go ahead, brother.
And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it.
So notice, we're talking about the Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter is an Egyptian. She's a Hamite, right?
That's right.
Okay. And she's seen this child coming, right? Go ahead, brother, read.
And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children.
So she knew what kind of child this was. This is one of the Hebrews' children. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.
Yeah, skip down. Just give me 10, brother.
And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water.
So right here we're reading and we understanding that this Hebrew son is passed as an Egyptian. Obviously, they got to be the same color, right? So skip down and give me verse, keep reading, 11. We're going to 13. Go to 11.
And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren.
So notice he looked on his brethren, which is a Hebrew, right? Go ahead, brother.
And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand.
And what happened? What'd they say?
And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together, and he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow?
Why did you smite your fellow? They thought he was Egyptian. So obviously they have to be the same color. So this is why we went here to show you the same color. Moses was a Levite, come from the tribe of Levi. Ain't that what it said? And he's an Israelite. So he, obviously Ham and the Egyptians are the same color as the Negro. Okay, you got anything to add on that, brother?
Nah, but we'll go over to Matthew and read this story because, you know, Jesus comes out of this same lineage. You know, he came out of one of these 12 children of Israel. He came through the one known as Judah. And Brother Jediah already touched on this, but we're going to go back and read it because we could see that the same type of thing was happening in Jesus' day when King Herod, who, if you wanted to look in history at this Herod, it'd be Herod the Great.
Let me interject.
Sure, bro, you got it.
to show that Jesus came from the tribe of Israel, you can go to Hebrews 7:14. It don't say Jesus, it just say our Lord sprang out of Judah.
We'll touch on a couple of them right here, man. I wasn't even going to.
Man, you know what? Let me. All right, my bad, brother. I'm sorry, nah.
Flow with it. You know what I'm saying? Just to show, so that y'all know where to find it. I was actually going to mention that anyway.
I'm sorry, man.
Nah. No need to apologize.
These two guys here.
So let's move over to Matthew 1, just to show a little look at, that Christ actually come from this same line of people. Matthew 1, and somebody pick it up at verse 1.
The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat Judas, his brother.
All right, and we read that. And we're going to skip down. We don't need to read all of these people, but we see it called him the son of David, who was actually the second king of Israel. So you can assume, these people, they the same people. They going to look pretty much alike. Let's skip down, as long as they don't, they not, move into another nation where people look way different and breeding with them. But let's skip down to verse 6.
And Jesse begat David the king, and David the king begat Solomon, of her that had been the wife of Uriah.
All right, and we'll skip down to verse 16 and go ahead.
And Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ.
All right, so we see Christ came through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and then one of his children, Judah. So we're dealing with the same people that we just read about back in Exodus. Now let's go over to chapter 2 and take a look at the birth of Jesus at verse 1.
Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we had seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. And when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
And if you look up this Herod in history, you'll see that, what he's about to do fits his character perfectly, because he was known for killing anybody that he thought, had eyes on his throne. Yeah, it was coming for his kingship. He killed, a wife, I think a couple sons, a brother, anybody that he thought was plotting on the throne. But go ahead, what verse you at, brother?
Verse 4.
All right.
So going back to that, though. So what we got going on right now is Herod being an Edomite, actually, being an Esau.
That's right.
But he's been placed king over Israel. But now somebody is born from the lineage of David, and it is known that David is the king's tribe. So when Herod looking at it from a political standpoint, y'all about to try, because see, we see this when you look at like when we start going to the medieval time period and over there in Europe, how somebody's born king, but he might not be king the day he born, but at some point he gonna be king. So Herod looking at it like, oh no, they saying he finna be born king. That's why they said Christ, because the kings of this day for Israel, we anointed our kings. So it's like, okay, well, we got to kill him, the Christ, the anointed one. You know what I'm saying? We got to kill. This is what Herod is thinking, because like the brother saying, he's a threat to my throne. And not even just my throne, but his family is a threat to my family. Because in the mind of Herod, you don't take this, you don't become king of Jerusalem without dethroning my whole family. You kill, and this is, and you see this when you look at if you look at England and you look at France and all that stuff, really going all the way up to World War I. This is what you see. You know what I'm saying? You see families jockeying for position throughout the land, but that's not the origin of that. You know what I'm saying? That's been going on since the days of Pharaoh, really. Right. So, and that's where the real threat is on Herod here, is that this family is about to try to take my throne.
And that's why it said that he was troubled and all Jerusalem with him.
Exactly.
Because we're going to find out he troubled them also to try to ensure that this didn't happen, but he couldn't stop it because it was from the Lord. But go ahead, verse 4.
Yes. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophets. And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people in Israel.
All right, and that's something written back in Micah, the 5th chapter.
So
he went and asked his wise men, and they found it in the scripture where it was prophesied, you know, where Jesus the Christ was going to be born at. So, you know, he tried to get the wise men to go find him, and when they found him, to come and tell him again. But we're going to skip down and get to it, because he already pretty much told you what happened. So let's skip down to verse 12 and go ahead.
And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
All right, so like you already said, if you want to hide out somewhere, you're going to go where you fit in. You're not going to go where you're the only person of a different complexion or something like that. And we see where they went into Egypt. We saw the Egyptians were black. Just one more scripture. We ain't got to really, you know, stick with this same topic, but let's just go to Revelation 2. And we'll just read one verse here about Jesus, as we're going to see. 2:18.
And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira write, these things saith the Son of God.
Who?
The Son of God.
All right, and this should be, it's written in red if you got one of those Bibles. But go ahead, what's he look like?
Who have his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet like fine brass.
All right, so it even say that, you know, this Jesus who was talking about, that his feet was like fine brass. So he would have fit in just, you know, perfectly with the Egyptians. But is there somewhere else you wanted to go off of that?
Well, I understand you got like an outside source to the word Niger, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go if you didn't know.
Before we go into, just to show a little bit about slavery.
Yeah, this is actually about the term Negro, but if you want to get into slavery, okay. Because as we're going to find out, well, it don't matter either way, one or the other. This is actually the Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. This is volume 16, page 190, and this is under the term Negro. And it's just a highlighted part after the first sentence. It says, the ultimate derivation of the word is from the Latin Niger, which means black, but its use as a term denoting a particular subgroup of mankind comes from the Spanish-Portuguese term Negro, which means dark, dating from the time of the African slave trade. So they letting you know this word Negro didn't really come into use until slavery, which is what we're going to look at out of the Bible, I guess, right now, right? All right, so go ahead.
Acts 13.
Where we going?
Acts 13.
Acts chapter 13. Brothers and sisters, you know, when you start looking at the origin of the black man, what we're doing or what we're establishing right now is really the origin of the people of the Bible. What color are they? And again, people try to say, well, it doesn't really matter what color they are. But facts are facts.
True indeed.
I mean, you know, Martin Luther King was the head of the civil rights movement. He was black, though. Right. And if he was white, it wouldn't matter. I mean, you know, it really wouldn't matter. We'd be like, well, a white man helped to start the black civil rights. I mean, it would matter. Yes. And I say that to say that the father of our faith, the father of the Christian religion, is not that blue-eyed, blonde-haired dude standing at their door at your church. Like the white guy. It's not him. Like that is a facade, and that's what we are establishing here. That look, the people of this Bible, they are the black people here in this country. They are the origin of the Negro. And as you read the Bible, you will find out how it is we got here in this position that we're in today. So at any rate, though, you say we're going to Acts chapter where? 13?
13. It's just that one verse.
What verse are we looking at?
Verse 1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger.
What was they called?
Niger.
They was called Niger. What did you say that book said Niger mean?
Black.
Oh.
Oh, so I could just start calling my brother-in-law Niger, huh? He gonna be mad though, cause he like black. You know what I'm saying? This 2019. We don't walk around calling people Nigers no more.
Oh,
people get offense to that.
Indeed. So I mean, you know, we seeing that this word Niger definitely means black, but that can still lead into the word nigger, right? As well. So, you know, Negro, niggers, it just meaning black. That's all that's meaning. So I just wanted to show you, you know, these two prophets here, Barnabas and Simeon, they obviously Israelites, correct?
Yeah.
And they're
Well,
called,
Simeon, that name is coming from one of the sons of Jacob itself.
Indeed.
You know, a lot of people miss that when they look at like Judas Iscariot.
Right.
And they're not paying attention that it's Judah, like from the tribe of Judah, and it's in Issachar, like it's two Israelite names.
Right.
So don't, I mean, and nobody wants to name their son Judas.
They may have reasons, but
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, Simon, he was black, and he was also an Israelite, and they call him nigger. They call him Niger. But while we on that vine right now, because you know the black man in America, that's what we call it now, right?
Yeah.
I just had to check because I don't be knowing. I know at one point we was Afro-American, we was black, we was colored, we was nigger, we was nigger. Yeah. You know, like I seen a video the other day. and this white dude called a black guy nigger. Now, if he would have said my nigga, he might have been okay. But when he said nigger, oh man, that black dude beat him up. You know what I'm saying? Like but at one point though, we was called that. Right. And if we go over to Deuteronomy 28.
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna open this can of worms up. Because see, so here's how it play out, getting to Deuteronomy 28. And I'm gonna let one of these brothers really touch on Deuteronomy 28. But I'm gonna get us to that point. So we were in Exodus 1 at one point today, right? I think I was walking back there or something. But we was in Exodus 1. We've been in Genesis 50 and Genesis 49. Then we went over to Exodus 1. And what we saw there was a family. This family went down into Egypt. Did we read Exodus chapter 1 when it said they went down in there 70 souls?
We didn't read the beginning.
We don't have to. But they went down. If you go back to Exodus chapter 1, Jacob and his family goes into Egypt 70. And under one king where Joseph was there and everything was all good. And then he's gone. And another generation comes through. Right. And the sons of Jacob, don't die. They multiply.
That's it.
And they multiply to a degree that they're by far way larger than the Egyptians. And the Egyptians start looking like, okay. Now, I saw this story somewhere else, though. I'm going to tell you, I was watching this today. In South Carolina in the 1700s. Now, y'all check this out. It's a documentary out on YouTube now about it. Okay. I think it's called Slave Catchers and something. But it's about, slavery in South Carolina. And they gave the number. And in the 1700s, the blacks outnumbered the whites. And it was and they was getting scared by the revolts that was going on in South America. And that's what really brought a strong slave catcher laws and the patrol, which that's what they call what you was doing when you was out looking for slaves in the 1700s. They called them patrolmen. Wow. That's what they call the police, though. Yeah. It's just it's just something. Because really, brothers and sisters, and before I catch us up there, let's go to Psalms 83. I know I'm changing the subject here, but I want us to see this here because really, if you've been following us this whole time, you get where we're going. And we are proving it. That's all we're doing. And we're going to continue to because we want to show you a few more things. I got one more key thing I want to make sure I show you that's in line with what I'm talking about now, but I'll show it later. But when you look at this Psalms 83, right? And pick it up at verse 1. When one of y'all brothers get there, just pick it up, Psalms 83 and 1. And this is the book that everybody got in their living room table opened up. Psalms 83 and 1. Go ahead.
Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Go ahead.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
Okay, so this is what has happened. This is why we got to do this. The reason that we are here showing you the origin of our people, and we don't know it, because if you start asking these Gentiles, oh, I'm Irish, or I'm Dutch, or I'm, wherever, but you ask us, I'm from Detroit. Well, I do Detroit. You don't even know what Detroit is. By the way, Detroit is French. That's who started that place. But most people don't even know that. You know what I'm saying? But what the moral of what I'm saying is, this Bible is showing us there has been a crafty counsel against the Lord's people to stop this name Israel from being in existence to its rightful owner. That is what has taken place. And that is why we're going through all this here. And that's going to build into Deuteronomy 28 as well. But we'll get back there later, but it's on the table. So as we push toward Deuteronomy 28, so when we back with Exodus chapter 1, when the new Pharaoh come up, that's when we got that story about Moses, and they was killing all the Hebrew babies, the Hebrew men, by the way, because that's where it's a great conspiracy against the men of Israel. And the reason that I'm regurgitating that aspect of it is because this ain't nothing old. I mean, this ain't nothing new. This was going on in Egyptian days, in Egypt's time, in the days that we was in Egypt, because we was in Egypt. All right. So now we get down to Egypt and we begin to grow. We begin to multiply like baby kids. And all of a sudden we dominant. And then here come Moses. And Moses finally takes a nation because God kept us in the land of Goshen. And we covered that land today. We just didn't make much mention of what it was. But it was the place, it was the reason why Israel didn't mix and mingle with the Egyptians. It's because we had our own land when we was in Egypt, Goshen. So now Moses comes and he takes us out of Goshen through Egypt, and he takes us towards the promised land. And as we get into Deuteronomy 28, that's where God gave the children of Israel the commandments. He set up a nation, and he was going to be their God. All these other nations had gods. Amun-Ra was the Egyptian god, and they had a statue to him. The Lord said, I don't need you to make no images of your God. I'm going to be right there with you, Israel. And I'm going to give you my law. And if you keep my law, everything going to go well. But if you don't, there's a word that a lot of people misuse, don't understand, may not comprehend, and that's curse. And brothers and sisters, this is the reason why we're doing what we're doing, because we are under a curse right now. That's right. And we're going to read about that as we hit in this Deuteronomy 28. Because we was talking before we got here about that word Niger. And how we've been called all kind of names. But that is written in the curses. We can't be called Israel no more like that. They would not recognize us as Israelites. Somebody else has taken that as their name of their nationality in the story. So when you go to fill out your app, it says white, and it says Hispanic, and it does not say Israelite. It says black. That's what, and you will never ever again be able to shade Israelite anywhere in this lifetime. Not like that you won't. Because it's a conspiracy against this people. But anyway, which one of y'all brothers going to tackle this Deuteronomy 28?
All right, let's take turns.
All right, Josh, you got it?
Nah, I mean, yeah, it don't matter. I got some scriptures written, but let's go there. And
well, because he already touched base on, how the Lord gave his people his word, and we're supposed to follow his word, but let's just get straight into it. Verse 15, pick it up.
Yeah, because like you were saying, some people might think that it's not important, or
No, it's very
it really doesn't matter. But if this the only people, as you read the Bible, that God made these agreements, he made these covenants with, and the only people that he taught when Jesus came, he sent his disciples out to go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, then obviously those are the people that have the oracles of God, as it says in the New Testament. The things that God gave to them, like Jesus told the Samaritan woman at the well, salvation is of the Jews. That's what's good for everybody, as a means to serve the God of this Bible. So it's important to know who they are. Also, just you know, to confirm that prophecy is true in the Bible. Because other than that, because the Bible is saying when Jesus returned, he going to gather those people from all over the world. So if you think that, you know, they were established in 1948 or something, then you may be looking at the Bible like it didn't get it right or something. But that's not the case. They just been lying, as we see, through this conspiracy, this concerted effort that all of these other nations have made to make the name of Israel to cease. All right, but yeah, you said Deuteronomy 28, verse 15.
Yeah, we ain't gonna read the whole entire chapter. We just gonna do some skipping.
All right.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So we're reading this for a purpose. We obviously didn't obey. So we ain't going to read about the blessings. That's out the window right now. We're going to read about the curses. All right, so just skip on down, brother, to verse 20.
The Lord shall send upon thee cursing and vexation and rebuke, in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me.
So everything we touch, everything we do, we don't get no credit for it. It's always taken from us. You understand? And it's because we did wickedness in the eyes of God. In other words, we didn't keep his laws and do what he told us to do. Right? So skip on down to 25, brother. Let's go ahead. What you got?
If you don't mind, let's just read a couple of these next verses I had highlighted too. Go ahead.
The Lord shall make the pestilence, verse 21, the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And
okay, so a lot of these things we looking at, this is like diseases, you know, and if you look up, as we going to get to, that, you know, slavery come along with this, but you look up the people that came here by means of slavery. That's why we looked up the term Negro, because we see that Ham is the father of the dark races. We saw that in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, but not the Negroes. Then we looked up the term Negro in Britannica. It said, oh, this term dates back to the African slave trade. So as we're going to see in this chapter, we'll get there, but we see that this same people that's involved in the slave trade that came here by way of slavery, they also going to have high rates of disease. But go ahead.
And thy heaven.
Oh, wherever.
I'm
sorry, brother.
25.
25?
Yeah.
And verse 25. And the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them. And thou shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
So he said, you shall be removed. He didn't say you shall migrate.
Nah, not at all.
We was not on no yachts or whatever. We was removed. That means somebody came and uprooted you from your land. That's what that means.
Yes, sir.
And how many kingdoms?
Unto all.
All kingdoms.
All kingdoms, right? Keep that in mind as we throughout the chapter too.
You know, and not to get off topic, but even though I know the Lord said he scattered us across the world, you know, it just still blows my mind when I saw a sister speaking Mandarin amongst them people. Like, I already knew what the Lord said, but it just was new to me. You know what I mean? So anyway, skip down to 36 if you got something between that.
Yeah.
Okay. What you got?
29.
Well, actually, I'm going to just keep running.
Okay.
26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. And the Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with scabs, and with the itch whereof thou canst not be healed. And the Lord shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of heart.
You know, and one of the things is crazy. I noticed a lot with our people riding through the city is a lot of us, we not in our right mind. I see us out in the street, you know, like we got some kind of spirit on us, more so than I see with any other nation.
That's true.
And I think it is what the Lord said he was going to do to this people if they didn't listen all the time when I witnessed that.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not to say that no other nations got no madness or nothing, but we just saying when you look at it, when you look at it from the perspective of riding through the inner cities and then riding through suburbia America, this is what you see this. You see this plague has hit us. Now, whether it hit them or not, I mean, that's not even the point. But you see this plague it is an identifying way to know us, because we got some crazy folks. Yeah. Like, when I say that, like, I mean, I grew up, we had Beeve walk up the street. You know, the story was about Beeve. Yeah, he was in Vietnam. You know, it's always some story about some nutty guy. Yeah. You know, I mean, it is. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's, I mean, but that has hit us in a major way. Oh, yeah, he got on some bad dope. You know, this all, and we seeing this here in the scriptures being prophesied about a nation or a people. That's right. 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
So again, you know, you go through the black neighborhoods, you know, and wherever we at is pretty much the lowest that you're going to find in this country. But
man, ain't no secret. Nah, we make the least amount of money. You know, I mean, like, you hear it, and the crazy thing about it is, it's normal to hear that it don't bother you no more. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, well, the medium income for, you know, a black family is, you know, 40 to 60,000, and then for a white family is 80 to 120,000. It's just like, oh, okay. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, this many kids go to college and such, and I mean, you hear it so normal now that we don't even care. It's like we expect that to be so. But what the Bible is showing us, it ain't by coincidence. There is a conspiracy, players behind the conspiracy, a confederate, to make sure that there's a group of people that's held back because God said so, as a punishment to this people.
And even it's a scripture in Isaiah, we probably won't get to it, but where the Lord said that he done set Israel on fire round about, and he ain't even lay it to heart. So like you said, when we hear statistics like that or see these things that, you know, are so commonplace to our people, it seems like that's almost what it's supposed to be like.
No.
But the Lord said, he was like, I'm gonna set you on fire all around you. You ain't even going, you're still not going to consider why. Why is this happening to me?
Bro, it's normal. I heard gunshots last night. When I was outside on the phone, I heard gunshots. I just looked around to make sure that they wasn't on my block and just kept. Yeah, it was normal. Now, you go to them Gentile neighborhood, if they would have heard them saying gunshots, they would have called the police. Like, ain't nobody, wasn't nobody in my neighborhood thinking about calling no police. We like, this is normal. We just hope it ain't us. Duck. That's what, you know, we in the house. Hey, everybody get down. That's what you're gonna say. So I'm just, at any rate.
Normal to it, but it's not normal.
I know, right? Verse 30. And thou shalt be thoughtful wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
So, I mean, this should be obvious now. We're dealing with slavery, with conditions heavily associated with slavery. You can even look into movies that portray slavery, and you see a slave get married, and the master sleep with his wife first. You know, so like you said, you're going to betroth a wife, and then another man going to lie with her. You're going to build a house and not dwell therein. Who built the White House?
What is it? Not Booker T. Who was it? Remember the floor plans for the White? Oh, for Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of his name right now, but
I know what you're talking about. And you, again, you know, they was dealing with having us picking cotton and doing different type of agriculture.
Hey, but you know what's crazy though? So they ain't sleeping with my wife now. But they done did something else to her though. They done gave her the power of the house.
True.
Like, this stuff wasn't in the Bible. They figured out another way to still keep this conspiracy to keep this man in his place now. You know what I'm saying? To now, I guarantee you, the people that's listening, if you go out into the inner city and you walk down the street and you see 4 little black boys come your way, I bet you cross the street. I bet you move aside. I bet you hold a higher level for respect for them than they do for you. We scared of them now. So whereas you might say, well, you know, they ain't doing this no more. Man, that's because they done made it worse now. You thought this was bad. You know what I'm saying? Now look at how we act now. Anyway, where we at?
That was 30.
All right, we're going to skip through some of this?
Yeah.
32 maybe, or 36. And the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, into a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
And what they going to do that?
And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
And you know what's funny? A lot of our people, they say, well, when we came over here, we was Muslim.
Yeah.
But, you know, all throughout the Bible, you know, Israel, you know, he said they you know, they was under every green tree worshiping something else. They done opened their way to the strangers, you know, like a harlot, like a whore. Yep. So, you know, God, one of the main reasons they end up, you know, going into slavery and dealing with these curses was for worshiping other gods.
That's right.
But a lot of the time when you try to tell people, you know, that this Bible is about us, our people, you know, that this is our history, they say, oh, we was Muslims before we came over here. Like, yeah, that's why God sent us over here. Exactly. And he said you're going to be serving some other gods when you get there.
That's why he put us on them ships.
Yeah.
Had to give us, they make it so bad, they done put us on the boat. We got over here. And then the Lord say, man, I got to give you their language first. And then I got to give you your book from them, though. So that you can learn about me. Because we had grabbed on something else. We start serving other gods. We wasn't serving the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when we got here. And that is the major problem, is that not only were we not serving our God, but since the Gentile gave us our God, we didn't know how to serve him when we got him. You know what I'm saying? So we had to eventually come out of this famine. We had to eventually come out of this lack of knowledge on what we're supposed to do with our God. It was a process of time. And you can't be mad at the white man because he gave you what you needed to get you to where you are now. She's like Bowie, like Brother Bowie. That's one of our elders. He say, man, you mad at the man, you mad at the back. You need to be mad at the one that's swinging the bat. If the Gentile is the bat, God's swinging.
You know, on that note, I know we're going to go through this, but can we just read a couple scriptures in Isaiah to kind of...
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Okay. If y'all don't mind, could we
Where
just
we
hold
going?
up? I think it's chapter 15. It's just like two scriptures, but it goes kind of along with what you're saying, because the Lord did this to Israel and not, you know, not man. Although man may have their own motives in what they do, you know, they obviously didn't think they was doing this to serve God. And he even kind of give us some insight into that here in Isaiah. It's actually Isaiah 10 and 15. Check out what he say here, because again, this came from the Lord, and it's a lot of our brothers over here. They realize that they the children of Israel, and they angry at another nation of people as if they responsible for this. But the Lord had told our forefathers what was coming down the line if they didn't obey. Right? That's what we were just reading. Check this out, Isaiah 10 and 15.
Shall the axe boast against itself, against him that heweth it therewith?
So he says, shall the axe boast itself against him that is swinging it? Go ahead.
No,
or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it?
So he's relating, you know, people to just like tools in the shed, an axe, a saw. Go ahead.
As if the rod shall shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift up itself, as if it were no wood.
All right, so notice what he said. They just the tool in his hand. He the one really hewing it and swinging. Even somewhere else in here, he's saying that they don't even mean to do it. Skip down to verse 5. It's Isaiah 10 and verse 5.
O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger.
So notice what he say. He using the Assyrians, but he said they just like a tool in my hand. He called them the rod of my anger. And what?
And the staff in their hand is mine indignation.
So he using other nations that don't even know him as a tool against Israel. And what else? Do they know that they doing God's will? Go ahead.
I will send him against a hypocritical nation.
Skip down to verse 7.
Howbeit, he meaneth not so.
So he don't even know what he doing. That he doing this to fulfill God's will, but what?
Neither doth his heart think so.
Uh-huh.
But it is in his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few.
So the Lord done put this in his heart for him to conquer, and he don't know why he targeting Israel. He just a rod, in my hand. It's the rod. He just a weight of my anger, in other words. But we can go back to to the brothers out there on the corner yelling, cussing out people of other nations. I understand your pain, but this is from the Lord. You know what I mean? So you're giving them too much credit. But Deuteronomy 28, and where was we at, brother?
37. This is why we came here, too. Deuteronomy 28 and 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment and a proverb and a byword among all nations where the Lord shall lead thee. So when you're looking at this verse, he's telling you wherever we are, we're going to be a proverb or a byword like coon, like nigga.
Porch monkey.
What you call it?
Porch monkey.
Man, don't you call me that. Right, you know what I mean? And then look at it the blackface stuff and all that is a mockery to a people, to this people, and it's in the Bible.
Right.
And there's plenty of stuff in this chapter, and we're not gonna read all of this chapter.
And not to mention
45 and 46 at least.
What you say?
At least 45 and 46 at least.
Yeah, not to mention all the names that may not even be so offensive, but just more confusing. You know what I mean? Got you chasing your tail, because even on different birth certificates, it might be Negro on some, like we read in there, date back to the African slave trade, or colored, or a lot of the ones you mentioned earlier, Black, African American. So
How you gonna be African and American?
Yeah, a whole continent and a country.
Who else call themselves that?
You double.
No. Africa, America. That's two continents. Don't nobody else say, well, they might, I'm Asian, I'm European. Like where? Oh, I'm Ireland. I'm German. I'm
Asian Australia.
Yeah, like that. Right. Yeah. Anybody like, yeah. I'm Italian. I'm Italian Chinese. Yeah. What? That's like some food right there. Right. But where did you say we gonna read some more of this at?
45, 46.
All right, 45. He said, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
So no matter where you flee to, some of us want to flee the hood and go to the suburbs. It's still coming. It's chasing us. Wherever you go. Go ahead, brother.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
This is why.
To keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
And what about these curses?
And they shall be upon thee for a sign. And they shall be upon thee for a sign. And for a wonder.
See? So these curses is upon you for a sign. Everything we just read about is on you to identify who you are. We are the children of Israel, and we are a cursed people because we didn't obey God's commandments. And that's how we know who the children of Israel are. So it's upon us for a sign and a wonder. You sit there, have you ever wondered why people shooting you up and everybody calling you nigger,
Right.
Wondering why this, why always me, why I never can get this, why I can never do that, why? Go ahead, brother. And upon thy seed forever.
What verse are we at? I'm sorry.
That was 46. I'm finished that.
Yeah.
All right, can we skip to 59?
Yeah, go ahead. Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed even great plagues, and of a long countenance, and sore sickness, and of long countenance.
So if you even look up, say, the term African American, or just look up who has the highest rates of disease in America, and see what comes up, see what diseases, you're going to see that the same people that came here as slaves, they got the highest rates of diabetes and obesity and sickle cell anemia, you name it, we got it, stroke. I just was reading up listening to an audio book. It said we got the rates of stroke is twice as high as Caucasians. And you'd be surprised plenty more, but this has actually all been foretold in the Bible.
That's because this people love pig. God told us to stay away from pigs and all the other stuff. Shellfish. Just being hard-headed.
You want to skip down to verse 64?
We can come back here and finish it. I want us to go to Isaiah 42. I want to show us something real quick. And I got some stats real quick. And really, we'll look at this Isaiah 42, and then we'll go back to Deuteronomy 28, and we'll really wrap it up from there, because we got lessons and things of that nature. And we really kind of touching the surface here. And but I want us to look at this verse here, and then I'm gonna throw something out there from out of a book of facts. We'll get there. No, actually, I do have that. I do got a book called The Fact Finder, but no, this is just a World Almanac. But just a regular World Almanac. But Isaiah 42, and pick it up in verse 18, and we're gonna get somewhere with this. So when you get started, go ahead.
Hear, ye deaf, and look, ye blind, that ye may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant, seeing many things, but thou observest not, opening the ears, but thou hearest not. The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey.
All right, go ahead. They are for a prey.
And none delivereth.
So right here, what he's reading, he's saying that they are in prison houses, talking about his people. Now, I have an almanac. This is from 2013. And where I'm at in this almanac is under the crime section. And what we're about to look at now is the arrest in the United States. So the part that I'm looking at here is offensive crime, property, it's all crimes. So it says the total arrest in 2013 was 10 million arrests. Out of those arrests, 7 million were white, 2 million were black, and it's 7.0 and 2.8. So, you know what I'm saying? So basically, out of the 10 million, pretty much 70%, because the United States population is about 12 to 15% black, meaning we ain't the majority. We very, very much the minority. So out of 10 million crimes, 7 million are white.
Gotcha.
All right. 2.8 million. So we'll say 2.5 of them is black. So we took this out of 10. If 10 crimes happen, 7 of them did by white people and 2 of them did by black people. All right. Now, we're going to look at in prison, though. Now, it gives you all races. And you can do this on your own all over. I happen to have this book, but I could have found this in a lot of places. But now we saw who commit the crimes. White people commit the crimes 70% to 25%.
Right.
Now it says under the males, imprisonment, all males total. And this is like out of a certain amount, like out of every 100,000. All right. So I'm not going to quote it out of every 100,000. I'm just going to give you the numbers that I see here. So under white people, 459. So really that's out of 100,000. Black people, 3,074. So what they're saying is out of 100,000 people, 3,000 of us out of every 100,000 is in prison.
Right.
Whereas 400 out of every 100,000 of their people is in prison. That is
7 times more. Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, they have committed 70% of the crimes, though. 70. Do you comprehend that? They are committing 70% of the crimes, yet we go into prison 7 times more than them. Nah, more than 7. 4 times. 4 to get you to 30. That's like 8 times. Yeah. We go into prison like 8 times more than them. 7 to 8 times. 7.5 times more than them. That is ridiculous. But the Bible is showing you that. Right. Again, it said, "Who is blind but my servant?" I'm in Isaiah. Or deaf is my messenger that I sent. Who is blind as he that is perfect and blind as the Lord's servant. You're talking about Israel, saying many things, but you ain't looking. You opening your ears, but you ain't listening. He say, look, the Lord is pleased for the ones that's doing right, verse 22, he said, but this people is robbed and spoiled. They are trapped in holes. They are hid where? In prison houses. If you continue to look at the statistics, I got 3 sons. Based off the statistics, my son has a greater chance of going to jail. Not prison, but just jail though. Meaning, you know, whatever the crime is, you know, simple, than going to college. That is ridiculously sad. But this is what the Lord did to us because we didn't keep the commandments. So going back to Deuteronomy 28, and we definitely appreciate your time with us this evening. We're gonna wrap it up really. But in the wrap up, I'm gonna go back to that Deuteronomy 28 where we was reading, where it said, I think it was at 40 something when it said this should be for a sign. 46. So in Deuteronomy 28 and 46 it said that they should be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder. Brothers and sisters, when you see these curses in Deuteronomy 28, don't listen to them Jehovah's Witnesses. They lying. This stuff's still happening to us. That's right. This stuff's still real. They telling you something. And don't listen to some of these Baptist preachers out here that's going to tell you how he can release these curses. These curses don't come off of us until the Messiah come back. That's right. Like they own us now. Now we're going to read a couple more, and I'm just going to pick it up in verse 60, and I'll read all the way down to 68. And man, we ain't doing it no justice sitting up here, brothers and sisters, meaning when I say we could do this for hours. Right. Like it is so much more to show you, but we got lessons on it. We hope that you had the opportunity to check some of them out on our page. You know, we got plenty of YouTube pages out here from different locations of brothers teaching the gospel where lessons are available. We got sister churches and stuff like that. House of Jacob, Israel of God. All these people out here, they showing you the same message. That look, God has put a curse on this people. That is why we're here in America and in South America. This is why we've been through slavery. This is why we ain't got nothing, why we in the projects and all these type of things, why it's so hard for us to get to college, why we got black colleges. You don't hear them talking about they got white colleges. This is the reason why these things are so. It's because the Lord has put a curse on us because we couldn't keep the commandments. So the moral of this story, brothers and sisters, turn back to your God. But I'm going to pick it up in verse 60, and one of y'all brothers, don't matter, can break this stuff down, or we could just read through it. But it says, moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they should cleave unto thee. Also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. And you should be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy God. And it should come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught.
And you know, a lot of times preachers, they won't read stuff like this to their congregation. Right. And because of that, you know, the general public, they don't think that God would do something like this, you know, because they want to make people feel good so they can get some more money out of them. But the Lord said he going to do this. He said the way that he going to rejoice over them to do them good and multiply them, he going to rejoice over them to destroy you. So this is why we at this point, and we got to recognize that the Lord is the one that did this to us because of the transgressions of our forefathers. But go ahead, bro.
And you should be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
So keep that in mind again, because he said it twice. We read it once earlier. But when we get to the last verse, we're going to remember this and see what it's talking about. But go ahead.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy father have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall thy soul or thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, a failing of eyes, sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have no assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
All right, so we already read twice in here that he going to remove them into all kingdoms. We read in one place. And in 64, he said, scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth, even to the other. So now when he bring up Egypt, he letting them know you're going back into captivity. You can read in Exodus to say Egypt, that's the house of bondage. They had just got out of slavery there. So he like, y'all going right back into it. But he didn't just mean Egypt, as we already read.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. And another point,
Ships.
bring you into Egypt with ships?
Yeah.
I mean, we walked out of Egypt and crossed the Red Sea. Like, why you got to take me in a boat? Because he ain't talking about, like the brother is showing us, he ain't talking about putting you in Egypt. He's talking about putting you in slavery. And there ain't been one group of people that's been in slavery on boats. That's us. He said, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye should be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
A bondman and a bondwoman, a slave man and a slave woman.
Yes, sir.
You go back in history, you can see them on the chopping blocks when they get off them slave ships. So it's the same thing right here.
And no man shall buy you.
No man shall buy thee.
Nobody was going to deliver us out of this slavery, not till Jesus come. So look, brothers and sisters, you know, Brother Stan, Brother Chris, and I, we been studying the Word, and we understand that the people of the Bible, they're black. When you start talking about what is the origin of the black man, the origin of the black man is the Bible. That's where his history is. And the actual black man, when you start discussing that aspect of it, that comes from the fact that we've been cursed, and that's why we not called Israel no more. So brothers and sisters, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to come into your homes or phones or however you paying us any attention and listening to us. And we hope that you got some type of message or understanding about the origin of the black man. Brothers, I appreciate y'all time this evening as well, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. All right, and peace to you in Jesus' name. Until the next time.
Peace.
Yeah, our brother did excellent. Yeah, he had pots back there. Cut it off. Let's see. Y'all did excellent, man.
Praise the Lord.
You got it?